Genghis Khan, the name that has struck fear into societies for centuries. To this day, his name symbolizes vast armies, unstoppable and merciless attacks, sweeping across continents like a storm. Entire cities were reduced to rubble, their inhabitants either slaughtered or enslaved. It's not just the scale of his destruction that left a lasting impact, but the sheer terror that came with the Mongol horde. No one knew when they would arrive. No one knew if they would be spared. The world trembled before the might of Genghis Khan, and the scars of his conquests are still etched into the landscape of history today. The Mongol Empire he forged was built on blood, but it was also built on strategy and an unparalleled vision of dominance. His empire stretched farther than the eye could see, from the Pacific Ocean to the heart of Europe. Entire civilizations were crushed, their cultures left in ruins, but in many ways, Genghis Khan also reshaped the very nature of the world. He wasn't just a warrior, he was a ruler. A leader with an eye for organization and an almost terrifying genius when it came to the art of war. But his brutality was not without purpose. Genghis Khan knew that fear was his greatest weapon, and he wielded it with precision. Cities that resisted him were met with complete annihilation. His soldiers were known to leave nothing behind but bones and ashes. Yet those who surrendered were often spared, brought under his rule, and incorporated into the Mongol Empire. It was this balance of terror and pragmatism that allowed him to dominate so effectively. And it was this same mixture of tactics that has kept his legend alive, echoing through history and into the present day. His empire wasn't just vast in size, it was also rich in diversity. Genghis Khan didn't care about your race, religion, or social standing. What mattered to him was loyalty and efficiency. If you could contribute to his empire, you were welcome, no matter your background. He built bridges, quite literally and figuratively, between East and West, between cultures that had once been entirely isolated from one another. These connections laid the groundwork for globalization as we know it today. The Silk Road, which had existed long before Genghis Khan, flourished under his rule, becoming a vast network for trade, diplomacy, and the exchange of ideas. In many ways, the world became more connected because of him. And in that connection lies a paradox. Genghis Khan, the man whose armies leveled entire cities, also became a symbol of unification in a fractured world. Under his reign, cultures that had never interacted before were suddenly in dialogue. The movement of goods and ideas across the Mongol Empire helped spark developments in technology, art, and science. But how many of us know that the global trade networks that power our economies today have roots in the infrastructure he built? The world became smaller, and that shrinking has had a lasting effect on the way nations interact with one another. Let's not forget that Genghis Khan wasn't just a military genius. He was also a master administrator. He understood that an empire as vast as his required order. His legal code, the Yasa, applied to everyone, from the lowest peasant to the highest noble. It was brutal in its simplicity, but it worked. The rule of law became a central pillar of his empire, and even after his death, this system continued to influence the territories that once fell under his rule. The idea of a centralized legal system that applies to everyone equally has echoes in modern legal frameworks, from Europe to Asia. And then there's his family tree, a legacy that has left an indelible mark on the human gene pool. Genghis Khan didn't just conquer lands, he left behind descendants, lots of them. Genetic studies suggest that millions of people alive today carry traces of his DNA. His offspring continued to rule over vast territories long after his death, and their bloodlines spread across the world. It's estimated that 1 in every 200 people alive today may be directly descended from Genghis Khan. Think about that for a moment. One man's legacy so powerful that it's woven into the very fabric of humanity itself. When you consider that, it's not hard to see how his influence stretches far beyond military conquests. He left behind something far more lasting. His very essence carried through generations. This brings us to the phenomenon of the Mongolian blue spot. Found on many infants of East Asian, African, and even some European descent, this bluish birthmark serves as a physical reminder of the vast cultural and genetic reach of the Mongol Empire. The mark fades with age, but for those who bear it, it's a link, however small, to a time when the world trembled under the rule of Genghis Khan. It's a curious detail that highlights just how deep his empire's roots spread, not just through territory, but through the lineage of humanity itself. Genghis Khan's tactics and legacy have shaped modern warfare in ways we might not even realize. His use of psychological warfare, the deliberate spread of fear, and his relentless pursuit of victory set a template that many military leaders have studied for centuries. His ability to mobilize vast numbers of troops across immense distances, often in brutal and challenging conditions, still baffles military historians today. His strategies for laying siege to cities, cutting off supplies, using deception to weaken morale, and then unleashing overwhelming force are tactics that still have echoes in contemporary military doctrine. Even the idea of a swift, mobile army, able to strike from unexpected directions, finds its roots in the strategies Genghis Khan employed with devastating success. But his legacy doesn't stop at war. The Mongol Empire's approach to governance, its embrace of meritocracy, its religious tolerance, and its legal system laid foundations for governance models still in use today. Genghis Khan was known for promoting people based on talent rather than noble birth, a revolutionary concept at the time. This practice of valuing skill over lineage is a principle that can be found in modern democracies and business practices. And his policy of religious tolerance, where all faiths were permitted to practice freely under his rule, was another forward-thinking aspect of his governance that resonates with modern ideals of freedom of belief. And what about communication? Genghis Khan created an incredibly efficient postal system known as the Yam, which allowed information to travel quickly across his massive empire. This system of relay stations ensured that messages could move faster than ever before, linking distant parts of the empire in ways that had never been possible. This network helped to solidify the unity of his empire, and it also influenced future communication systems. Fast forward to today, and we see a direct parallel in the way modern communication networks function. The speed and efficiency of our internet-driven world echo the principles that Genghis Khan valued so highly. The Mongols also played a significant role in shaping the development of Europe. Their incursions into Eastern Europe in the 13th century forced European powers to rethink their military strategies, leading to changes in the way wars were fought centuries. The fear of the Mongol horde even influenced the Crusades, with some European leaders believing that the Mongols could be potential allies against the Islamic world. The psychological impact of the Mongols on Europe, coupled with the new ideas and technologies they brought, left an indelible mark on the continent's history. So, how does Genghis Khan affect us today? His empire may have crumbled, but his influence remains in the trade routes that connect continents, in the governance systems that prize merit over birthright, and in the tactics that shape modern warfare. His legacy is found in our DNA, in the birthmarks of millions, and in the global networks that power our world. His destruction reshaped the world, but his genius for connection and administration helped build it back up in ways we still benefit from today. Genghis Khan's story is far more than a tale of conquest. It's a story of transformation, how one man reshaped the world through a combination of terror, brilliance, and an understanding of the forces that bind societies together. His empire may be long gone, but his presence still lingers. From the structure of our societies to the blood that flows through our veins, Genghis Khan's shadow remains. And whether we acknowledge it or not, his impact on the world is something we still live with every day, and most likely for centuries to come. I would love to see your thoughts in the comments. Was Genghis Khan a blessing or a curse for humanity overall? If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and press the notification bell. Be safe, and I will see you next time.